What would you do if one of your best friends asked you to fly 2,700 miles away from home to a new and unfamiliar country? I guarantee if you said yes, you will never forget your decision. And that's exactly what happened to me this past year when an opportunity to visit Ecuador presented itself. For the first time in my life, I was away from my family, and any sense of comfort that I had grown accustomed to back home at Herndon was gone. That being said, I was far from alone. Tomas, Senior Allen, and I were the three Hornets who traveled from Herndon High School. We also quickly met our tripmates from Ohio, roommates from West Virginia, our tour guide Caro, and of course, our bus driver Pato. We could have easily found the most popular tourist attractions in Quito, but growth comes from discomfort, and cheesy activities are right in the comfort zone for a group of Americans. Instead, we sought out a place where we would be able to submerge ourselves into a foreign culture and language. We are fortunate enough to live in a place where our schools have constant access to computers, Wi-Fi, and smartboards, among other things. But this school was different. They didn't have the same privileges as us, but they had something far more valuable: joy. These students were driven and some of the most optimistic people I've ever met. And as we practiced our Spanish and they had their English, we got to learn a lot about the true culture that existed in Ecuador.
Yes, saluden. Gracias.
It's hard to put yourself into a new place with new people and not try and seek out familiarities. Pushing yourself to not just shying away from these differences, but actually seeking them out can take something uncomfortable, like two guys from West Virginia, and turn it into some pretty unforgettable games of Settlers of Catan, among other things. Our trip was centered around the culture of Ecuador, and at the heart of all culture itself lies language.
Bro. God damn. What is this country?
Learning a foreign language was always something that I saw as an unattainable task. However, over the past 5 years, I have tried to bring that unattainable goal within my reach. Learning vocabulary in a classroom is one thing, but placing yourself in a country where you have to speak, think, and act in Spanish is a whole nother ballgame. It's easy to cheat when learning a language in a place like the United States, where you're constantly just surrounded by one language, English. However, in Ecuador, there is no other option, either sink or float. This trip was unlike anything else I've ever done in my life. I traveled with a group of complete strangers through the cloud-covered Andes Mountains over the span of a week, and by the time it was all said and done, I said goodbye to some incredible friends by the water in Guayaquil. I ate llama and cuy, climbed atop churches and boulders, spoke more Spanish than I ever thought possible, and even got a walk on the mighty Inca Trail. Leading up to our arrival in Quito, I was filled with nerves and wasn't sure if this was the best decision. I thought about how expensive this week was going to be, and all the time that I would be away from my family. But taking that step into the airport on my own was one of the greatest things I followed through with. The experience gained from traveling the world is far and away the most valuable thing anyone can own. It gives you a new perspective that is impossible to see anywhere else. It allows for a person to develop in new ways that are unique to wherever you are. I challenge you to one day grab a friend, backpack, and a plane ticket and go do something uncomfortable and watch yourself grow. The only question is, where will you go?